Your notebook should be out. Today is day 2. Give yourself a nice title in your notebook. Day 2, maybe put today's date. And then today's topic, we are working on integer addition and subtraction. Integer addition and subtraction. As always, quick reminder, since it's only day 2, anything you are seeing on the board, any work that I am doing up on the board, you should be writing down, you should be paying attention, you should be thinking through to make sure you understand. Again, integer addition and subtraction. First thing here says, if we combine either two positive numbers or two negative numbers, so when combining two positive numbers, or when we combine two negative numbers, we're going to ignore the signs and just add the numbers together. So if the numbers are negative, we don't worry about the negative signs. We just add the numbers together. If it's two positives, we don't worry about the positive signs. We just add the numbers together. So two positives, we add. Two negatives, we add. And again, this is when we're combining, not when we're multiplying or dividing, just when we're combining stuff up, adding or subtracting. And then finally, the sign of your answer should be the same as the sign of the numbers that were given. So if we were combining two positive numbers, our answer is going to be positive. If we were combining two negative numbers, our answer is going to be negative, the same as the sign of the numbers. So again, you should be writing all this in your notes. If I'm going too fast and you need more time, by all means, pause the video, get caught up, and then we'll continue on. A quick example here, you can't really put this part in your notes, that's okay. Let's suppose that you get $5. You gained $5. So you were given $5, so I've got $5 here, 5. And then you were also given $1. So I gained $5 plus I gained another $1, and I think we can all agree 5 plus 1, hopefully we can recognize that is 6, right? We gained a total of positive $6. Positive, we usually don't put the plus sign, but 5 plus 1 is 6. Hopefully we don't have too many issues about that. Let's think about this a little bit differently. Suppose you lost $5. Anytime you lose something, it's a negative. So our net negative, we lost $5. So -5, we're going to move that 5 over here and $5 bill in the loss. And then you lost another $1. So minus, you lost again, right? So -1. -5 minus 1. Well, these are both losses, right? So because they're both losses, even though they're both negative here, even though it says minus, when they're both negative, because they're both losses, I need to add them because I'm trying to figure out what my total loss is. So we ignore the signs. So I don't worry about the minuses. They're both minus. So I ignore the signs and I add the numbers together. 5 plus 1 is 6. And I lost both times, so my overall net is a loss. So it's a -6. If I lost 5 and I lost 1 more, I lost a total of 6. -5 minus 1 should give us -6. So example 1, back in your notes here, you should be writing this down this time. Example 1, part A says -9 minus 2. -9 minus 2. We should recognize that the 9 is negative. We look at the sign in front. The 9 is negative, and the 2 is also negative. 9 is negative, 2 is negative. If they are both negative, when combining two negative numbers, we add the numbers. So we don't worry about the signs. Don't worry about this minus or this minus. Just add. 9 plus 2 is 11. And because they were both negative, my answer is negative 11. If you lost $9 and then lost $2 more, you lost a total of $11. Because they were both losses, you add. 3 plus 7, odds are good that you do not need to think through the rule for 3 plus 7, but let's talk through it anyway. 3 is positive. I've got a positive 3, and I've got a positive 7. When they're both positive, two positives, we add the numbers together. So we do 3 plus 7. I don't worry about the signs, just 10. Positive 3, positive 7, because they were both positive. And I'm adding, my answer is also positive. Negative 6 minus 3. Negative 6 minus 3, very similar to part A. Both are negative. If they're both negative, I add. 6 plus 3 is 9. Because they were both negative, and I'm combining them. I'm not multiplying or dividing. I'm just combining them. My answer should be negative 9. So that is scenario 1, if we are combining either two positives or two negatives. The other option is I am combining one positive with one negative number. When you combine one positive number with one negative number, we are no longer going to add the numbers, but now we are still going to ignore the signs, but then we're just going to subtract. We're just going to take the bigger number minus the smaller number. And then the sign of the answer is the same as the sign of the bigger number. So if the bigger number was positive, your answer is positive. If the bigger number is negative, the answer is negative. And let's think through the money example again here. Let's suppose that we lose $5. Negative 5. You lost $5. There's a $5 loss. But then you gain $1. You get $1 back. Because you gained 1, it's a positive 1. So because one's a gain and one's a loss, we're not just going to add them up and say 5 plus 1, because they're not the same thing. Here, I want to figure out the difference between my gains and losses. So I do $5 that I lost minus $1 that I gained. So the difference between these two things is now 4. I lost 5, but then I gained back 1. But then my losses were bigger, right? I lost more than I gained. So overall, I should have lost money, which is why the sign of the bigger number should be the same as the sign of the answer. Same thing would work if my loss was $5 and my gain was $5 and my loss was $1. I gained 5. Let's do the loss first. Lost 1 and then gained 5. Lost 1, gained 5. I still do 5 minus 1 to get 4, the difference between the two, but now my bigger number is a gain. It's a positive, so positive 4. Example 2. Example 2, part A says negative 9 plus 2. Negative 9 plus 2. You will notice that the 9 is negative, and the 2 is positive. One positive and one negative. When that is the case, one positive and one negative, we're going to subtract. So we're just going to do 9 minus 2. I'm ignoring the signs. I'm not worried about this being negative and this being positive. I decided to subtract. I'm just doing 9 minus 2 is 7. And then the bigger number, 9 or 2, the bigger number is the 9, which was negative, so my answer should be negative 7. Negative 1 plus 13. Negative 1 plus 13. 1 is negative, 13 is positive. One positive and one negative Do I add or subtract? I should subtract. 13 minus 1 is 12. The bigger number was the 13, which is positive, so positive 12. 4 minus 6. 4 minus 6. 4 is positive. 6 is negative. 1 positive and 1 negative. When that's the case, we subtract. We want to do 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. The bigger number here was the 6. 6 is negative, so it's negative 2. So, quick summary of what we've covered thus far. If I combine two positives or two negatives, I want to add, and then the sign of the answer is the same as the sign of the numbers that were given. If I have one positive number and one negative number, we no longer add, but we subtract. We subtract, and then the sign of the answer is the same as the sign of the bigger number. We check the bigger number sign. If the bigger number was negative, then the answer is negative. If the bigger number was positive, then the answer is positive. And again, when you check the sign, you're always checking the sign in front of the number, not the one behind the number. A couple other things that might happen when we're combining integers, adding or subtracting integers. Sometimes we might be adding a negative number or subtracting a negative number. So we have two signs, a plus and a minus, that are right next to each other. If I have a plus and a minus next to each other, we are going to rewrite the problem. Every time you should rewrite the problem and change to a negative. The plus and the minus is the same thing as subtracting. So quick example here. If I've got 3 plus negative 8, 3 is positive, but notice I've got two signs right next to each other, plus, negative. If I've got plus and minus next to each other, we need to change that to a minus. So I'm going to rewrite that as 3 minus 8. And once I get down to there, now this problem's just like all these other ones that we've already done. So 3 minus 8, 3 is positive, 8 is negative. One positive and one negative, we want to subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5. And the bigger number, 3 or 8, 8's bigger, is negative, so negative 5. Sometimes you might have a minus and a minus next to each other. Minus and minus next to each other. We are going to change that to a plus sign. If there's a minus and minus next to each other, we change it to a plus. Quick example, 6 minus negative 2. Minus and minus right next to each other. They have to be right next to each other. This is not right next to each other. 6 is negative, 2 is negative. They're two minus signs right in a row. Usually it'll be written in parentheses like that, but if it looked like this, that's also minus and minus next to each other. Minus and minus next to each other gets changed to a plus. 6 plus 2, 6 and 2, they're both positive. We don't need to think through the rules here. 6 plus 2 is just 8. And then a little bit of mixed review here. Let's talk through each of these. I'm going to give you a quick, maybe 10 to 15 seconds to try it on your own, then we'll talk through each one. Negative 2 plus negative 7. Negative 2 plus negative 7. I would recognize that I've got two signs right next to each other. One's a plus and one's a minus. When that's the case, I change it to minus. -2 minus 7. 2 is negative. 7 is negative. I've got two negatives here. If I have two negatives, they're both losses, so I want to add those losses up. I lost a total of $9. -9 is correct. Part B, -3 plus 9. 3 is negative. 9 is positive. 1 positive and 1 negative. If that's the case, we want to add the numbers up. I'm sorry. 1 positive, 1 negative. We want to subtract the numbers. 9 minus 3 is 6. And the bigger number was the 9, which is positive, so positive 6. Part C, -4 minus -9. -4 minus -9. First thing, minus minus next to each other like that. We're going to change it to a plus. -4 plus 9. 1 positive, 1 negative, so we subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. The bigger number was the 9, which is positive, so I have positive 5. Plus and minus next to each other. 6 minus 2 gives us 4. And last one, 1 minus 4. 1 minus 4. 1 is positive. 4 is negative. 1 positive, 1 negative. We subtract. 4 minus 1 gives us 3. The bigger number is the negative one, so -3. That is it for today's notes. If you're having questions on any of this, please reach out to your instructor. You will be doing some IXL practice, some review. You will have an in-class assignment as well. If this is a topic that you are struggling with, please get the help you need prior to trying to move on. I will see you next time.